Hi everyone, this is Anas and you watching my reaction video to a crime story. So, don't waste the time. Let's go.
Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we are going to take a look at another real story with you. Black magic, witchcraft, and dark spells. At first it seemed like these things only existed in a few countries, or that only certain people believed in them. But slowly it became clear that such things exist all over the world, and many people are superstitious about them. In some countries, crimes have even occurred because of black magic. Some people question whether spirits, jinns, ghosts really exist or not, whether magic and black magic are real or not. But today's story, and especially its climax, is quite strange. This story is from Malaysia and dates back to the 1990s. Around 1988-89, a girl in Malaysia started becoming very famous for her singing. She had a beautiful voice, was a good singer, and her fan following in Malaysia was growing steadily. People even say that if social media had existed back then, she would have become even more popular and well known. Still, with the limited resources she had at the time, she was making a strong place for herself in the world of singing. The name of this singer was Mona. She was born and raised in Malaysia, in a middle-class family. She had a passion for singing since childhood, and later turned it into her profession. Everything was going well, but by 1991, many new singers had emerged in Malaysia. The competition had increased, and Mona wasn't getting many opportunities. Because of this, her popularity gradually began to decline. Mona started to feel that she might not be able to go very far in the music industry, so she needed to do something else to survive. She was quite ambitious. That's when she noticed something whenever she performed at high-profile events. She interacted with many influential people. She realized that the more powerful someone was, the more fearful they were. To gain something, to avoid misfortune, to prevent suffering, or to achieve wealth, power or success in the glamorous world, or a good position in politics, people were deeply superstitious. Many of them secretly practiced things like prayers, charms, and black magic. Even though such practices were considered wrong in Malaysia, people still did them in secret. Mona saw that powerful people were actually the most afraid, and she noticed that powerful people tend to be more superstitious and paranoid. They believed that if black magic or witchcraft could help them get something they wanted, then what's the harm? Many of them also thought that such things existed in ancient times and must be real. That's when Mona started connecting with people who were experts in black magic. She then decided to put her singing career aside and fully master the art of black magic. After that, she began reading all kinds of books on black magic and even started taking whatever training was available. Gradually, she became highly skilled in it. She started performing small black magic rituals and spells. After that, she began attracting clients at first. They were ordinary people, mostly those dealing with pain, suffering, or driven by greed. She started dealing with them accordingly. Slowly, Mona became more well-known in Malaysia as a secret black magician than she ever was as a singer. She started gaining a hidden reputation as someone who practiced witchcraft and black magic. Her name even began circulating in high-profile circles. Coincidentally, around the same time, there was a politician in Malaysia whose ambition was to win the upcoming election. And then he became the chief minister of a Malaysian state. His name was Dato' Mazlan Idris. Dato' Mazlan Idris was a member of the political party UMNO. He was running in the elections, and it was expected that if everything went well, he would become the chief minister of a state in Malaysia. But he was also superstitious. He had studied the history of powerful leaders who, according to stories, used black magic to gain control over everything. Suddenly, he began to feel that the fight for the chief minister's seat was going to be very tough, with many strong contenders competing for it. Confident about winning the election, but wasn't sure if he would actually become chief minister. To be safe, he decided to do something about it. That's when one of his advisors suggested that he meet Mona, saying she had magical powers that could remove all negativity and bring power and success to his feet. Since he was already somewhat superstitious, he believed them. He got in touch with Mona. She gave him some charms and told him certain things to do. Whether it was coincidence or something else, she told him that if he followed these steps, things would turn out well. And around that time, everything started falling into place for him. Whether it was a setup, a coincidence, or just luck, things began going right, and because of that, Dato Mazlan's trust in Mona grew stronger. Slowly, he started to believe that it was Mona who could help him reach the chief minister's seat. After that, he began asking her to do more. Then one day, Mona called him to meet and told him, "Your chief minister's seat is guaranteed. It's not going anywhere. Just let me do 2 things for you. I'll give you 2 powerful items, and after that, no rival will be able to stand against you." And the 2 things she spoke of were a stick and a crown, something like a royal crown. Mona told him, "These aren't ordinary items. This stick and crown once belonged to the former president of Indonesia. She claims she had acquired them at a very high price. Coincidentally, there were many rumors about that Indonesian president too, that he possessed some kind of special powers, and that there were people around him who possibly used black magic to give him strength and power. He had read about all this before. So when Mona told him she had the stick and crown of the former Indonesian president, and that they were magical, he felt certain that once he had them, the chief minister's seat would be his for sure. He agreed, but Mona told him that the items were extremely valuable and that a lot of money had been spent to acquire them. Because of their magical power, they came at a high price. When he asked how much, she said 2.5 million ringgit being the Malaysian currency, was the price for that 2 items. She said, "Give me this money and I'll give you both the items along with instructions on how to use them. With this, you won't just succeed in politics. You'll go very far, not just become chief minister. But even beyond that, the chief minister's seat is guaranteed." Dato Mazlan believed her. Trusting her words, he even sold some of his land and paid her 25% of the total amount as an advance. The remaining 70% ringgit was yet to be paid. It was the month of July in the year 1993. On July 2nd, Mona invited Dato Mazlan to her house. She told him that before using that things, he would need to take a special flower bath, a ritual bath with flowers to purify and cleanse himself spiritually. Dato Idris agreed. Mona picked a specific date in July 1993 and told him he would need to come to her house alone, as the entire ritual had to be done in private. She said he would be bathed with flowers, but under one condition. During the entire ritual, his eyes must remain closed. He was to keep thinking only about his dreams and goals, and not let his mind wander. And for Dato Idris, his dream as a politician was power. So for him, the dream was the chief minister's seat, and he agreed. On the scheduled date and time, Dato Idris arrived at Mona's house. After a brief conversation, staff and crown were shown to him. He was told, "You'll take these with you, but you must not touch them until the flower bath is complete." Dato Idris agreed. A proper setup was arranged, a large tub filled with flowers for the ritual bath. He stepped into the tub and, as per the condition, he had to keep his eyes closed until he got out of it, so that he would be fully purified and spiritually cleansed. And after that, the stick and crown would be handed over to him, and through their power he would reach the chief minister's seat. So, while he sat in the tub, eyes closed, he was dreaming blissfully about his bright future. At that moment, 2 people entered the room. He had been told clearly, no matter what happens, he must not open his eyes. He was warned that there would be distractions and temptations, but opening his eyes would ruin everything. Whether he heard footsteps or not, his eyes had to stay shut. So he lay there, eyes closed, lost in his dreams, unaware that, behind him, 2 people were approaching. One of them was holding an axe. With one swing of the axe, he struck directly at his neck. With a single blow to the neck, Dato Idris's head was severed from his body. His head and body were no longer connected. The rest of his body remained in the tub, while his head fell outside. The water in the tub turned red with blood. After that, everything was quickly gathered. His body parts were packed into sacks. The entire room was cleaned thoroughly, and the bloody water from the tub was thrown out. Then, under the cover of night, they left Mona's house. Near the house, there was already a pit that had been dug in advance. Dato Idris's body was buried in that pit. The ground was leveled, and the group returned home. 8 hours had passed since the incident. Within those 8 hours, because when Dato Idris came that day, he had brought the rest of the payment with him in cash. The deal was that after the ritual bath, and once he touched the stick and crown, he would pay the remaining 75% of the amount. He had already given 25% as an advance, but he was murdered inside the house before that could happen, and all the cash remained there. Within the next few hours, Mona, along with her husband, dressed up and left the house. They went straight to a showroom and bought a brand new Mercedes-Benz. After that, she bought a new phone and purchased some decorative items for their home. After finishing all the shopping, she returned home, the same house where, just 8 hours earlier, she had murdered a politician who was dreaming of becoming chief minister. Now, everything was done, the body was buried. Meanwhile, the politician never returned home. His wife knew that he often traveled or went off the grid for a few days at a time, so she wasn't immediately alarmed. Also, this was 1993, mobile phones weren't common yet, so the family was used to not hearing from him for a while. But when 2 or 3 days passed without any word from him, and he didn't call from a landline as he usually did, concerns started to grow. There were no phone calls, and when his colleagues and personal assistant were asked, they all said they hadn't seen him. That's when the family grew seriously worried. They went to the Malaysian police and filed a missing person report. Since he was a well-known politician, the case gained attention quickly. News about his disappearance was printed in newspapers and broadcast on TV. The search for Dato Idris began, but there were no clues. A week passed. Then came July 20th, 1993. On that date, there was a fight at a local casino, a gambling house, and the Malaysian police arrested a man involved in the incident. His name was Juraimi, and he had been gambling at the time. Juraimi had gotten into a physical fight with someone, and during the scuffle, the police arrested him. He was taken to the police station, and there he was beaten up during interrogation. During the beating, he suddenly said, "What will you do? How long will you keep me here? I've committed a much bigger crime that the police still don't even know about." The officers thought he was bluffing. But then he said, "Do you have any idea how far our reach goes? We murdered a politician, and no one even knows about it till today." One of the police officers remembered hearing about the missing politician, Dato Idris, who had been gone for several days. The officer started to suspect that Juraimi might be talking about Dato Idris, so they questioned him more. After a while, Juraimi seemed to realize what he had blurted out, but by then he was already on the police radar. The police intensified the interrogation. Eventually, Juraimi confessed, saying, "Yes, we killed Idris." He added, "I didn't commit the murder with my own hands, but I did help bury the body. I'm not the killer, but I was involved." When the police asked who actually did it, he named the sorceress Mona. As soon as they heard her name, the police immediately took Juraimi with them and headed to Mona's house. Mona and her husband were both at home. The moment they saw the police, they seemed to realize their secret was out. Both Mona and her husband were arrested. During the interrogation, it didn't take long for the truth to come out, especially since Juraimi had already revealed everything. The police took them near their house, where Juraimi pointed to the burial spot. A dig was carried out, and from the pit, Dato Idris's skeleton was recovered. Now the evidence was in front of them. The killers were in custody. A trial followed. The case went on for 8 years, during which Mona, her husband, and Juraimi remained in jail. Now the question was, why did Juraimi reveal everything to the police? The reason was that Juraimi was once deeply loyal to Mona. Mona had only asked Juraimi to help bury the body and, in return, paid him a small amount. But later, when he found out that Mona and her husband had bought a Mercedes and were living a luxurious life, he became suspicious. He realized there was a lot more money involved than he had been told. He started asking them for his share, but Mona refused to give him anything. That's when he decided to expose them and revealed everything to the police. Now, all three were charged not just with murder, but also with being accomplices, hiding the crime, and misleading the authorities, all serious offenses. The trial lasted for 8 years. During that time, Mona stayed in jail, but even behind bars, her story made headlines in newspapers and on TV. The media often highlighted that Mona was a black magician, and there were even bizarre rumors that during her time in jail, she laughed often, made requests for new clothes, and supposedly had magical powers that let her leave the prison at night and return by morning. Though none of these claims were ever officially confirmed, they added to her mystique. After 8 years, the court finally gave its verdict. All three were sentenced to death when the death sentence was announced. At the time of the verdict, Mona's husband and Juraimi broke down in tears, but Mona was smiling. Looking directly at the judge, she laughed and said, "No one can kill me. I will never die." Just seeing her like that and hearing stories about how a so-called sorceress had murdered a politician terrified people. Fear is a powerful thing, and her words only made people more unsettled and confused. Still, time passed, and eventually the date of execution approached. The execution was scheduled for November 2nd, 2001. On that day, at a prison in Malaysia, all three, Mona, her husband, and Juraimi, were to be hanged together. 3 gallows were prepared. According to Malaysian law, the night before the execution, prisoners are asked if they have any last wishes, or if there is anyone they would like to meet one final time. Each of them made a request. Mona said she wanted to meet her parents. Her husband was already with her in jail, so she asked for her mother and father. There's also a provision where the prisoner can request a final item or wish from the visitor. The last wish is often fulfilled in 2 parts, whom you want to meet and what you'd like from them. And if you want to eat or drink something, or if there's anything you'd like to see, a memory from the past, you can share that too. So, just a few hours before her execution, when Mona was asked about her final wish, she said, "I want to meet my parents, and I want to eat KFC chicken." The jailer and others standing there found it strange. It's often said that before execution, people lose their appetite. They're too overwhelmed by the thought of death to think about food. Wanting to eat something becomes almost unimaginable for someone who knows they're going to die. When her husband and Juraimi were asked the same, they only requested to meet their relatives. Neither of them asked for any food or drink, but Mona placed an exact order. She wanted KFC chicken with a breast piece and mashed potatoes on the side. She even specified the exact KFC outlet near where she used to live, insisting that the food must be brought from there. Her parents brought the meal. The jailer checked and confirmed everything was fine. Then the meal was handed over to Mona. She ate it, and also met with her parents one last time. No regret, no fear, no sign of remorse. Mona had no fear of death at all. After meeting her parents, she said goodbye. By morning, all preparations for the execution were complete. All three, Mona, her husband, and Jeremy, were to be hanged together. The time was 5:59 a.m. At 5:55, all three were brought to the gallows and made to stand on the platform. Their hands were tied behind their backs, their feet secured with ropes. All that remained was to cover their faces and pull the lever. In those final 2-3 minutes, they were asked if they wanted to say a last prayer. Her husband and Jeremy were trembling, whispering prayers, remembering God in their final moments. When Mona was asked if she wanted to say a prayer, she simply laughed. She looked straight ahead and said, "I will never die." Right after saying that, the black hood was placed over her head. At exactly 5:59 a.m. on November 2nd, 2001, the executioner pulled the lever and all three were hanged at once. And just like that, the story came to an end. But even today, Mona's chilling last words and her final wish, KFC chicken, are remembered in Malaysia. People still talk about the sorceress who laughed before death, who said she would never die. Her story is still told, and still feared. So this was today's story. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We hope you enjoyed the content and found it valuable.
So this is so shocking case. I hope like this. So like the video and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.